Welcome, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. The day Danielle told me I wasn't a priority, she didn't shout at me. She said it like she was reading the weather. Neutral, certain, done. We were standing in our kitchen in Atlanta, morning light pouring across the counter like everything was fine. I just asked if we could schedule one night a week that belonged to us. No phones, no work emergencies, no quick stops. She sipped her coffee, stared past my shoulder, and said, "Miles, you're not my priority right now. If you've ever been treated like an option, subscribe. This one flips fast." I felt the sentence was land, heavy and clean, the kind of truth that doesn't need a second swing. Danielle didn't apologize. She didn't soften it. She followed with, "You're a grown man. You'll be fine." Then she picked up her laptop bag like I'd asked her to pass the salt, not protect the marriage. I watched her walk out while the refrigerator hummed and the faucet dripped once, like a little metronome counting how much effort I'd wasted. And that's when I made a decision that felt quiet, almost boring. I would stop making noise. For years, I'd been the one who patched the holes. If she forgot a date, I turned it into a joke. If she came home late, I reheated dinner and pretended I wasn't staring at the clock. If she snapped, I blamed stress. I thought love meant endurance. But hearing "not a priority" out loud did something to me. It rearranged the furniture in my mind. It made me see how often I'd been waiting at the door of my own life like a polite guest. So I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I went quiet. Quiet isn't punishment when it's honest. Quiet is a boundary when words aren't respected. That day, I didn't text her a long paragraph about feelings. I didn't call her 5 times. I didn't do my usual routine of sending lunch money through kindness, hoping kindness would buy attention. I did my job, logistics management for a regional shipping company, answered emails, solved problems, and stayed steady. But inside, I made a promise. I wouldn't chase someone who'd made me an afterthought. If Danielle wanted distance, I'd stop fighting it. The first night, she didn't notice. She came home after 10, heels in hand, perfume and city air clinging to her. "Traffic," she said, and dropped her bag. Normally, I would ask questions, try to connect dots. Instead, I nodded. "Okay." She paused like she was waiting for the old Miles, concerned, needy, ready to be fed crumbs. When I didn't perform, she blinked and went to shower. I ate the plate I'd already made myself and turned on a game I didn't care about, just to hear something besides my thoughts. The second day, I changed something small that Danielle didn't see at first. I stopped arranging my schedule around her chaos. I went to the gym before work. I called my mom back without rushing. I cleaned the garage in the afternoon and organized the shelves like I'd been meaning to for months. It wasn't revenge. It was a reclamation. Danielle sent a quick text around noon. "Need you to pick up my dry cleaning." I stared at it, read it twice, and replied, "Can't. At work." No emoji. No apology. By evening, she was irritated. Danielle liked control, disguised as independence. She didn't mind being busy. She minded me not orbiting her. "You're being weird," she said when she came home. "What's with the short answers?" I kept my voice calm. "I'm fine." She laughed once, sharp. "So if you're doing that thing where you sulk?" I didn't react. "I'm not sulking. I'm just not begging for attention." The words slipped out like truth does, simple, not dramatic. Her smile dropped, and for a second, her eyes looked unsure, like she'd misread the room. That night, I slept early. Not to make a point, but because I was tired of staying awake waiting for someone who didn't respect time. In the middle of the night, I felt Danielle get into bed and turn toward me. Her hand brushed my shoulder. "Miles?" she whispered. I didn't respond, not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I didn't trust her midnight tenderness. In the morning, she acted normal again, too normal. She made eggs, asked about my day, and touched my arm like we were in a commercial. I watched her performance and stayed quiet. 2 days later, her panic got loud. It started subtle, longer stares, little tests. She'd ask, "Do you still love me?" Like she needed reassurance before she could keep treating me carelessly. I answered honestly, "I love who we used to be." Danielle didn't like that. She liked absolutes. She liked ownership. That evening, she tried another approach, anger. So you're punishing me because I'm focused on my goals? I looked up from my phone. No, I'm accepting what you said. I'm not your priority. So I'm acting like it. That line cracked something. Danielle's voice rose. You're making it into this big thing. I didn't raise mine. It is a big thing. She stormed into the bedroom, slammed a drawer, and came back holding her phone like a weapon. Here, she said. Look, nothing to hide. She shoved the screen toward me with a smirk that dared me to take the bait. I didn't. I'm not checking your phone, I said. Danielle froze, confused. She needed me to play detective so she could play victim. When I refused, she didn't know what role to take. The next day at lunch, I sat in my car behind the warehouse, eating a sandwich and watching trucks line up like patient animals. My friend Andre called. He works in IT and has that calm voice that makes chaos sound manageable. You good? He asked. I hesitated. Yeah, just shifting. Andre laughed softly. That means something happened. I told him the sentence, not a priority, and the quiet I'd chosen. He didn't cheer me on. He didn't tell me to blow up my marriage. He just said, pay attention. People show their truth when you stop reacting. When I got home, Danielle wasn't there. No message. No running late. The house felt peaceful in a way that made me realize how tense I'd been for years. I cooked salmon, ate at the table, and washed my dishes like a man who wasn't waiting for permission to live. At 10, she burst in, cheeks flushed. My phone died, she said quickly. I couldn't call. She watched my face, searching for the old explosion, the interrogation. I kept rinsing a plate. Okay. Danielle stared, then asked, You don't care? That's when I finally looked at her. I care, I said. I just don't chase. My calm made her restless. She tried to stir drama, like a spoon in a pot. So what are you doing, Miles? Are you planning to leave? I shrugged. I'm planning to respect myself. That answer hit her like cold water. Danielle sat down and started talking fast. About work, about stress, about how she felt pressured by my expectations. I listened, not with hope, but with clarity. When she finished, she watched me like she'd thrown a net and was waiting to see if I'd wiggle. I didn't. I went to bed. The next week, her panic turned strategic. Danielle started showing up in my life, inviting herself into my gym schedule, cooking breakfast, sending flirty texts during the day. She even posted an old photo of us on her social media with a heart caption that felt like a billboard meant for someone else's eyes. People commented, goals. Danielle smiled at her phone. I didn't. I recognized the pattern. She wasn't fixing us. She was securing her image. The more I stayed quiet, the louder she became. Like silence was a mirror, and she hated her reflection. Then came the first real crack in her story. On a Thursday, I got a notification from our doorbell camera. Motion detected at 2:17 p.m. I was at work. Danielle had told me she'd be in meetings all afternoon. I opened the clip. A man stood at our door, tall, wearing a fitted blazer, scanning the porch like he owned it. Danielle opened the door quickly and stepped outside, blocking the view into the house. She touched his elbow, familiar. They talked for a moment. Then he handed her an envelope. She snatched it like it was hot and closed the door fast. Comment quiet if you go silent too. Wait for what she tries next. My first instinct was to confront her immediately. That's the old Miles. Rush, demand, explode, beg for a truth that would be rationed. I turned off that instinct like a light. I forwarded the clip to myself and kept working. That night, Danielle was overly sweet. She laughed at my jokes too hard. She asked if I wanted dessert. She rubbed my shoulders and called me baby, like the word could rewind time. I watched her carefully. When she went to shower, I noticed her purse on the chair, slightly open, and that same envelope corner peeking out. I didn't grab it. I didn't dig through her things. Instead, I waited. Quiet is patient. Quiet is a trap for lies because lies need you to run after them. The next morning, Danielle left early, and I took a personal day from work. I sat at the kitchen table and opened our shared finance app, the one she assumed I never checked. I had always trusted her with money because I didn't want to be that husband. Now I was simply being responsible. What I saw made my stomach tighten. A new recurring transfer, small amounts at first, then bigger. Payments labeled consulting. Consulting for what? Danielle works in marketing. She consults all the time. But the recipient name wasn't a company. It was a person, R. Harlan. The transfer started 3 months ago, right around the time Danielle began saying she was too busy for date nights. I clicked deeper. There were rideshare charges across town, dinners in places we'd never been, and one hotel charge on a night she told me she slept at her coworker's house. My fingers didn't shake. My heart did. I took screenshots, logged dates, and backed everything up like a man collecting proof for a court case. I called Andre. "You were right," I said. "Something's off." He didn't ask for drama details. He asked practical questions. Do you have copies? Do you have access to accounts? Is your name on everything? Andre wasn't telling me to destroy my marriage. He was telling me to protect my life. That afternoon, I sat with an attorney named Ms. Lowell in a modest office near Midtown. She listened without judgment. "You don't have to decide divorce today," she said. "But you should know your options. And you should separate your finances before someone empties them." I went home with a folder that felt heavier than paper. Danielle walked in that evening, smiling too bright. "Guess what?" she said. "I booked us a weekend getaway. Just us." Her voice sounded like a sales pitch. I studied her face. "Why now?" I asked. Danielle's smile strained. "Because I love you." I nodded slowly. "Okay." She exhaled like she'd won. But then she added, "Also, don't freak out if someone comes by with documents. It's just work stuff." My chest went still. "Documents?" I repeated. Danielle waved her hand. "Nothing. Just boring." She tried to leave the room. I stopped her with one sentence. "Who is R. Harlan?" I asked. The air changed. Danielle's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before she masked it with a laugh. "What? Nobody." I kept my tone flat. "We've been paying him consulting for months." Danielle's mouth opened and closed like a door stuck on a hinge. Then she recovered with anger. "Are you spying on me?" I didn't bite. "No, I'm checking my finances." That word, "my," set her off. "So you don't trust me?" she snapped. I leaned back. "Trust isn't a gift you demand. It's a result you earn." Danielle turned pale. She tried tears next. Danielle had a full arsenal. Charm, rage, tears, guilt. "I'm under pressure," she sobbed. "I didn't want to burden you." I watched her like she was on stage. "What is the money for?" I asked again, steady. Danielle wiped her face and whispered. "It was supposed to be temporary." My heart pounded, but my voice stayed calm. "Temporary what?" She swallowed hard. "I made an investment." I almost laughed because it sounded like a lie a teenager would tell. "An investment in a person?" I asked. Danielle's silence answered me. The truth spilled out in pieces, the way it does when someone is cornered by receipts. R. Harlan wasn't a consultant. He was a man Danielle used to date before me. Someone she called her what if. He had reappeared with a business pitch, a branding agency he claimed would blow up. Danielle funded him with our money. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was why she panicked when I went quiet. Danielle had promised him more. She told him she could pull a large amount from our savings once she handled me. Handled me, like I was a task. I sat there listening, feeling the betrayal turn cold in my veins. Danielle tried to frame it as ambition. "I did it for us," she said quickly. "To build something bigger." I asked one question that cut through everything. "Why didn't you tell me?" Danielle stared at her hands. "Because you would have said no." I nodded. "Exactly." She rushed toward me like she could hug the truth back into safety. "Miles, please. I made a mistake." I stood up and stepped away gently. "You didn't make a mistake," I said. "You made a plan." That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was plotting revenge, but because I was grieving a version of my life I had believed in. In the morning, I moved quietly. I opened a new account in my name. I redirected my paycheck. I scheduled a meeting with HR to update deposits. I photographed the important documents in our home safe. I called the attorney and followed her instructions like someone building a lifeboat. Danielle watched me from the hallway, eyes puffy, voice trembling. "Are you leaving me?" she asked. I answered honestly. "I'm leaving the version of me that accepts crumbs." Her panic got loud after that, louder than I'd ever heard it. Danielle started calling nonstop when I was at work, leaving voice messages that swung from sweet to furious. She showed up in the parking lot one afternoon, makeup perfect, eyes red. "Why are you doing this to me?" she demanded. like accountability was an attack. I kept my voice low because coworkers were watching. "I'm not doing anything to you," I said. "I'm responding to what you did." Danielle grabbed my arm. "We can fix this," she pleaded. "I'll cut him off. I'll do therapy. Just don't abandon me." The word abandon was a weapon. The next twist came from somewhere I didn't expect: the envelope. 2 days after our confrontation, Danielle left it on the kitchen counter like bait. I waited until she went to the store, then opened it. It wasn't a love letter. It was a legal notice. Harlan's agency was being sued by multiple people for fraud. Danielle wasn't an investor. She was a victim, and she was about to make me one too. Suddenly, her panic made sense. She wasn't scared of losing love. She was scared of losing the financial net she planned to throw over me. She needed me quiet, compliant, and predictable. My silence ruined her timing. When Danielle came back, I placed a notice on the table. She froze. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "Our house," I said. "Our money." Danielle sank into a chair like her bones had given up. "He promised me," she began. I cut in gently. "He promised you what you wanted to hear." Danielle cried hard then, messy and real. For a second, I felt pity. But pity isn't a foundation. "Miles," she said, voice cracking, "I didn't mean to hurt you." I nodded slowly. Intent doesn't erase impact. I offered her something she didn't expect: a fair exit. Not revenge, not humiliation. Clarity. I slid a paper across the table. My attorney's preliminary agreement. Separate accounts. No more access to my funds. A plan to sell the house if needed. A timeline. Danielle read it with shaking hands. "So this is it?" she whispered. I looked at her, really looked. "This is the consequence," I said. Danielle's eyes lifted, searching for a loophole, an argument, a charm, a way to make me loud again so she could twist it. I stayed quiet, and in that quiet, she finally heard herself. Share this with someone who keeps overgiving. This ending is the lesson. 2 months later, the house felt different. Lighter. Danielle moved into an apartment across town. She tried to call sometimes, but the conversations were short, respectful, and sad. The fraud case against Harlan became public, and people asked Danielle questions she couldn't dodge with cute captions. I didn't celebrate her pain. I learned from it. I learned that being loved isn't the same as being valued, and being needed isn't the same as being chosen. The day she said I wasn't a priority, she handed me a truth. Going quiet wasn't revenge. It was me finally listening and choosing myself out loud. If you enjoyed the story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.